Aloha! Here we are with Freedom Podcast, and we have a very special guest today. Dr. Robert Malone is here in Hawaii with us, fresh off of a weekend in Maui and here in Oahu at Ala Moana Beach Park, Saturday and Sunday, double whammy with about 5,000 participants total. So, have you been in Hawaii before?
Never.
Really?
Never.
I thought you were saying on vacation all the time.
So I grew up, my wife and I are high school sweethearts, and we grew up in this little town called Goleta, which is just north of Santa Barbara. And the kind of the culture of Santa Barbara is, you may or may not know, is generally they think they're pretty cool, but not as cool as people that live in Hawaii. So I feel like I've finally made it to the center of cool of the universe by coming to Maui in particular, but also to Oahu. So it's kind of a personal bucket list, and thank you very much for the opportunity to visit your community.
That's so awesome. All right, well, I'm going to dive right in. So Dr. Malone is the inventor of the mRNA technology, and I'm just wondering, when this all started, and a couple years ago, February 2020, around with Fauci and the CDC telling us different things, and now we realize that there's a lot of fraudulent information there. Did you know that immediately? At what point did you realize there's some bad actors here?
Bad actors. I've known Tony and dealt with Tony my whole career. Nothing that I've seen here has surprised me very much, although it's like the culmination of his career, that a lot of the behaviors and activities and strategies that he's pioneered with HIV, for instance, have come to full fruition in a way that I couldn't have imagined. Just to backtrack a little bit, you mentioned February or March is when your timeline starts. My timeline starts when I got a call from a CIA officer that I've co-published with in the past, who was actually undercover as an academic from Harvard. He was in Wuhan in the fourth quarter of 2019, and he called me on January 4th, as I recall, and said, "Robert, you've got to get your team spun up because we've got a problem with this coronavirus." So for me, I've been pretty much hell-bent for leather ever since about January 4th. And then the first upload of the sequence as the Wuhan seafood market virus, is the way it was labeled, was done about January 10th. And that's when I started doing molecular modeling and the docking work, computational docking work, that led to the discovery of famotidine as one of the repurposed drugs for this agent. It's taken that long, and we're just about to launch clinical trials funded by the DoD using the combination of famotidine and celecoxib. So I've seen this play since the very beginning, and just a little more calibration. My wife Jill as the lead, and then me also supporting her, editing and writing some of the text, put out a book on preparing and protecting yourself from the novel coronavirus. It didn't even have a name back then. And that was published in February of 2020. Jill called it pretty darn well when you look back and read her book. We self-published on Amazon at, basically throwaway prices. And within a month and a half, that was taken down, censored by Amazon. I think our sin was that we were advocating for masks in that as one of the things that you could do to protect yourself. At that time, that was the official policy in the United States, that it was prohibited speech to talk about using masks, which is one of the ironies here. So I've long been aware of Tony and his tendency to substitute his opinion for data, and many other of his things that he does. So nothing's really surprised me in terms of that level. What has been just stunning for many of us, and for me, I've been through too many of these pandemics and epidemics. So I'm almost a little bit burned out on a lot of the dysfunctionalism that just happens again and again and again and again, and they never seem to change or learn. The global coordination of censorship and propaganda, and some of the tools, the integration across the pharmaceutical industry, the government, big tech, and big media was a big surprise. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen targeting of physicians. I've never seen this level of granularity and sophistication in the media and propaganda push. And it really, this for me has been you remember the Shrek quote, ogres are like onions. So it's been one of those onion things where you peel the layer and then you say, oh, there's another layer below that. And you peel that layer, there's another layer below that. The first layer was the aha moment when it was brought to my attention on LinkedIn that the chairman of the board of Pfizer also sits on, the chairman of the board of Reuters also sits on the board of Pfizer. That was actually pointing that out on LinkedIn is what precipitated my first bout of having been deleted from LinkedIn precipitously. But that led to the awareness of the Global News Initiative, which is led by the BBC, and is this integration of major media globally that was put in place ostensibly to allow resistance against foreign disinformation and propaganda relating to elections. And there was a decision to repurpose that alliance and turn it against what was perceived as disinformation relating to vaccines. Disinformation was defined as anything which differed from the official statements of WHO, CDC, the European Medicines Agency, or whatever the local regulatory authority was. So that was a shock for me when I first ran into that. Whoa, what's going on here? And it turns out that wasn't even the depth of it. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper, the coordination. And so that's a whole nother topic.
Right. And to the point that it seems like it's been decades in the planning, right?
It has been decades in the planning.
Yeah.